Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Kunja Vihari Premanande.
Haribo.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 12, Birth of Emperor Parikshit, Text 30. Sa esa loka vikyata Parikshiti yat Prabhu Uvam dishtam anudyayan Parikshita nirespeha Sa esha loka vikyata Parikshiti yat Prabhu Uvam dishtam anudyayan Parikshita nirishviha Sa esha loka vikyata Parikshiti yat Prabhu Uvam dishtam anudyayan Parikshita nirishviha. Please chant.
Esha loke vikyata Parikshit iti yat Prabhu Purvam drishtam anudhyayan Parikshit nareshuviha
Esha loke vikyataha Parikshit iti yat Prabhu Uvam drishtam anudhyayan Parikshita narashoviha
Sa esha loke vikyata Parikshit iti yat Prabhu Purvam dristam anudhyayan Parikshita narishviha.
Sa esha loke vikyata Parikshiditi yat Prabhu Purvam drishtam anudhyayan Pariksheta nareshviha.
Just before I continue, usually the ladies on this side, if any more come, we better be on this side. Okay. Thank you. Word for word. Saha. He. Eshaha. In this. Loke. World. Vikyatata. Famous. Parikshit. One who examines. Iti. Thus. Yat. What? Prabhu. O my king. Purvam. Before. Dishtam. Seen. Anodyayan. Constantly contemplating. Parikshita. Shall examine. Nareshu. Unto every man. Iha. Here. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. So his son would become famous in the world as Parikshit, examinator, because he would come to examine all human beings in his search after that personality whom he saw before his birth. Thus he would come to constantly contemplate him. Purport. Maharaj Pariksha, fortunate as he was, got the impression of the Lord even in the womb of his mother, and thus his contemplation on the Lord was constantly with him. Once the impression of the transcendental form of the Lord is fixed in one's mind, one can never forget him in any circumstance. Child Parikshit, after coming out of the womb, was in the habit of examining everyone to see whether he was the same personality whom he first saw in the womb. But no one could be equal to or more attractive than the Lord. And therefore, he never accepted anyone. But the Lord was constantly with him by such examination. And thus, Maharaj Pariksha was always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord by remembrance. Srila Jiva Goswami remarks in this connection that every child, if given an impression of the Lord from his very childhood, certainly becomes a great devotee of the Lord like Maharaj Pariksha. One may not be as fortunate as Maharaj Pariksha to have the opportunity to see the Lord in the womb of his mother, but even if he is not so fortunate, he can be made so if the parents of the child desire him to be so. There is a practical example in my personal life in this connection. My father was a pure devotee of the Lord, and when I was only 4 or 5 years old, my father gave me a couple of forms of Radha and Krishna. In a playful manner, I used to worship these deities along with my sister, and I used to imitate the performances of a neighboring temple of Radha Govinda. By constantly visiting this neighboring temple and copying the ceremonies in connection with my own deities of play, I developed a natural affinity for the Lord. My father used to observe all the ceremonies befitting my position. Later on, these activities were suspended due to my association in the schools and colleges, and I became completely out of practice. But in my youthful days, when I met my spiritual master, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, again I revived my old habit, and the same playful deities became my worshipful deities in proper regulation. This was followed up until I left the family connection, and I am pleased that my generous father gave the first impression, which was developed later into regular devotional service by his divine grace. Maharaj Prahlad also advised that such impressions of a godly relation must be impregnated from the beginning of childhood, otherwise one may miss the opportunity of the human form life, which is very valuable, although it is temporary like others. Om Gyantamidandasya Gyanana Shalakya Chakshamitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovisam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swavanantikam Vanchakapaturubhyascha Kripasindhurevacha Patitanam Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. There's a saying, first impressions last forever. So it doesn't get more first, and then seeing the Supreme Personality, all attractive Lord within the womb. And especially when you're about to be killed by a nuclear bomb. You'll never forget that. So fortunate was Maharaj Pariksha. Obviously it was the mercy of not just the Lord, but also of his mother. If we go back to the 8th chapter, there was a simultaneous approach from both Kunti Devi and Uttara, the mother of Maharaj Pariksha. So as Kunti Devi was offering prayers, Uttara was also calling out to the Lord that this Brahmastra is coming to destroy Maharaj Pariksha in the womb. So Krishna could address both of them simultaneously. Krishna can do that. Sometimes sometimes I encourage my mother, why don't you chant, or why don't you go to the temple, or sometimes she gets a bit discouraged. I go, where'd you go? She goes, no, Krishna's too busy. Actually, it's all of us who are too busy for Krishna. But Krishna never, he always has time for us. And he's so kind. So, by the mercy of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit was saved from the Brahmastra given by Ashwatthama, and he was able to see this beautiful form of the Lord. And he got the name actually Vishnurata at birth, which means one who's protected by Vishnu. But I guess it's a nickname. He got the name Parikshit, which means examinator. He was always examining were you that personality that saved me at the beginning of my life in the womb? Says here, no one could be more attractive or equal to than the Lord. By this examination, he was always remembering the Lord. Mammana bhava mabbhakto. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that always think of me, become my devotee. He says this twice actually. Once at the end of the 9th chapter and in the end of the 18th chapter. So this is kind of our goal, to always somehow think of the Lord. This is exactly the same as Lord Chaitanya's teachings. Kirtana Sadahari. Always chant the holy name of the Lord. The holy name is Krishna. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Punasado Nicho Mukto Pinatam Nami Namino. That holy name is like Chintamani. And it's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. It's dynamic, it's alive, Chaitanya. Rasa Vigraha. We're all after rasa. That's why we do anything. That's why a man is working so hard 9 to 5 for his family, to exchange rasa with the family. This is why we do anything, to taste. It means juice as well, rasa. Like rasgula, rasmalai. There's juice in there. So, trying to go for this juice, we should go to Akila Rasa Nritamurti, the reservoir of all pleasure. Or Akila can also mean complete. And Rasa means that tasting relationships. Amrita, nectar, Murti, that form. So Maharaj Parikshit was always in connection with the Lord in that way. He was always tasting rasa. Just by examining, didn't even see. We can see this in the life of many devotees from the Bhagavatam. Narada Muni, he was also a child in his previous life. And he saw the Lord through the sadhu, through the Bhaktivedantas who came in that Chaturmasya, and he was serving them so nicely. And through that benediction associated with the pure devotee, one can see the Lord. This is how it's done through parampara. Evam parampara praptam, evam raja rishyo vidu sakalinaha mahata, yoganasta parantapa. That supreme science is science of how to see God. So we don't see God with the eyes. These eyes are blunt. Atasha Krishna nama adi, nama vegarna mindriya, sevamukhi jivado, swayamera spirati yada. That the material senses are completely blunt. You cannot see the Lord. You cannot see spirit. Prabhupada said you can't even see your own eyelid. But to speak of seeing God. If the lights are off, you can't even see your anything. What are the use of these eyes? So we see the sadhu also, and we see God through the ears. This is this verse says Jiva Mukha Seva Mukha Jiva Do. First with the mouth and the tongue we are serving, and then the Lord reveals Himself to us. So this is how it's done here. So Narada Muni in his previous life, being the son of a maidservant, Shri Radhamadani Shroki, Shri Gauranga Subhadra Ki, Shri Gauranitai Ki, Shri Giri Govardhana Ki. Narada Muni served those Bhaktivedantas and especially got their Maha Prasad. It's so powerful, Maha Prasad. You cannot underestimate this. it can be taken without permission also. So it's going to be interesting this breakfast maybe. Hopefully you're inspired. Because he got completely transformed. He was no longer bound by his material limitations. His real love for the Supreme Lord was awakened through their mercy. Even to the point he had so much detachment and knowledge that even when his mother, who was the only person in his life, was bitten by a snake and died, he saw this as the mercy of the Lord. Tatte kampa shushamikshamano imananapma kritam vipakam vitbhavapuri vedanta namaste jiveto yo mukti sabit mukti prade sadayaba. That, oh my Lord, this is Lord Brahma's prayers to Krishna. Oh my Lord, your devotee patiently waits for you and suffers the reactions of his past misdeeds. He still worships you with his heart, body and mind. And in this way, the kingdom of God becomes his rightful claim. This verse is very nice. It's pretty much saying, just like someone who's the son of a rich person, all they have to do is stay alive. We have a few rich people who come every morning, couple. They do have descendants. For them to get the wealth, they just have to stay alive. So similarly, for us to get the kingdom of God, one just needs to stay alive in Krishna consciousness. And how is that done? Well, it's done by being patient. We're going to patiently wait. But it's not just waiting. We're going to suffer the reactions of our past misdeeds. Things are going to go wrong. And how are we going to see these things? This is the mercy of Krishna. Krishna is just trying to take me closer to him. I'm not going to take it out on Krishna when things go wrong. When the devotees say bad things to me. Usually we think, oh, it's for the people out there. No. You have to suffer reactions even as a devotee. And how are those reactions going to come? How those slaps are going to come? It's going to come through devotees. I don't know if you've experienced that before. Well, during a devotee, I thought, my problems will go away. No. Still problems are there. Maybe more. Krishna's so kind that he wants you back to Godhead now. I think we feel that here with Radharani Mishra. It's intense living in this temple. So much service, so much preaching in the middle of London. It's heavy. It can be heavy. But they're also very sweet. So that intensity is combined to purify us so much. There's so many reactions to purify us so we can come back to Godhead very quickly. The deities are so sweet to us. So Narada in his past life saw that his mother dying, being bitten by a snake, he didn't go, oh God, why did you do this? He didn't take it out of God. He said, oh, this is just a way to increase my service. Yet, Bhagavatam, to somehow just pay obeisances with your heart, your words, and your body. Somehow serve. Whatever happens, I'm not going to take this out on Krishna. Many times we think, oh, these devotees, they don't honor me, they don't care about me. No. We say it every morning, Vanchakalpastaruvischa Kripasindhuvabevicha Patitanam Pamnibhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. They're just like desire trees. They have oceans of compassion. Because they can fulfill all your desires. What is the thing that can fulfill all your desires? It's Krishna. They give you Krishna. This temple is a preaching temple. We are going out giving Krishna to everyone. In the form of knowledge. In the form of prasadam. This restaurant is filling people's bellies up and purifying them, filling them up full of Krishna prasadam. Going out on Harinam, the holy name, entering into their consciousness more and more. So Narada, he increased his service more and more. He started wandering. He just walked and just chanted the holy name. He went through different towns and villages. He was seeing mines and factories, and he was just fully absorbed in just, I'm going back to Krishna. His meditation became so intense that the Lord appeared him just once. And what did the Lord say? You will not see me again. I only did this to increase your service, your attachment to me further, and disappear. But what was the benediction? Here's Narada Muni in the next slide. Another example is Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, he got the Lord's association through Narada Muni while he was in the womb as well, hearing the Bhagavatam within the womb. Sometimes there was one congregation of devotees in Australia, and they were pregnant with a child. I go, so, is the baby hearing Bhagavatam? She goes, yeah, I'm going to put headphones around the valley. And the Bhagavatam's going on, Prabhupada's speaking. I don't know, maybe the kid became self-reliant. But these impressions at the beginning of life are very powerful. We can see Prahlad Maharaj, how convinced he was. He was not shaken at all by all the threats by his father. Threw him under elephants, in a pit of snakes, in boiling hot oil, off a cliff, tried to stab him with spears. All didn't work. Hiranyakashipu got his own mother to try and poison him. Also didn't work. Even his sister, Hiranyakashipu's sister, had this benediction that she cannot be burnt by fire. Okay, take the child and set it on fire. And she got burnt, and Prahlad was alive. And there's a fellow Ramanujacharya, I can't remember, I think it's one of the Alvas. And it talks about Prahlad's reasoning of why he was never fearful. And I only can remember one, is that they asked Prahlad, weren't you scared when they threw you in the pit of snakes? And he goes, no, my father, my father is lying down on a snake bed. So, it's like a bed actually, all these snakes. Because he says his father is Vishnu, and he lies on an Anantashesh. So, all these snakes there, just like my father's bed, saying, what's there to be scared of? So, just constant remembrance of the Lord just couldn't be, it just didn't, and the Lord kept protecting every time. Even to the point of Nishimidev. We always remember for protection. Once you go for a long drive, once you're on a flight, once you're Namaste Narasimhaya, like this. So this remembrance is very powerful, especially at childhood. Prabhupada gives his own example. Gomahan De was a pure devotee, the father of Prabhupada. And he would always, he was a cloth merchant, and he would, I like India because during the day they just take a break and sleep and go home, take lunch, take a rest and come back to work. So he would work in the morning, do that, and then come back, do the evening shift, and then close up. And he would leave a bowl of rats for all the rats to make sure they didn't eat the cloth. And then he'd go home and do puja, and the children would see. And Prabhupada as a child would go to the local Radha Govinda temple down the road. And he loved the deities, he loved the worship. It was just a big samskara for him. And he also wanted to worship deities like his father. Father was very happy he got these small Radha Govinda deities, and he was worshipping, copying the ceremonies. like they did in the Radha Govinda temple. So all these impressions in childhood is very powerful. I've seen devotee kids, they have their own deities as well, kind of toy juggernauts now, you know. And they feed them, they do puja for them, because they see their parents do it. Like so, and then their altar, their toy altar will be right next to the parents' altar. So the parents will be doing puja to their deities, and then they have their small little toy altars, and they're also trying to do it. They don't know what they're doing. They're just like. And sometimes, you know, if their parents are doing kirtan and playing mridanga, they're also playing. It's really nice. It's really cute, you know. So, yeah, they go out and pick flowers. So all these samskaras. But sometimes we think that, you know, many devotee children, they go off the rails. It's quite common now. They off the rails means they go into Maya. What happened, you know? And their parents are like very exalted devotees, and somehow they're there. So what about all that influence in the beginning? What happened? Not to worry, we have the 6th canto. Ajumil was a stand-up. He was like the perfect brahmachari. He was like well-versed, he knew all the verses, he was very humble, he did everything perfectly, pretty much. And then just one day he went out fetching wood for yagya and saw a Sudrani embracing, being intoxicated. Just that alone, it just like spun his mind. And then he got caught up, married the prostitute, had 10 children, was stealing, was doing all this simple activity. He had his own wife, left her as well. Very good, qualified woman. Left and just went for this prostitute. Got fully degraded. He had no hope of liberation. But only this whole thing of just calling his son Narayan. And then at the point of death, seeing the Yamadutas calling out to his son, not even to the Lord, to his son. With such desperation, the Lord took it as, oh, he's calling me. And he was saved by Vishnudutas. Then again, after that being purified, he was able to perfect himself. Devotional service never goes in vain. Nirvikrama nastasti patavaya navijite swarapasya dhamasa trate mahato bhaya. That there is no loss or diminution on this path. It saves one from the greatest danger. You can't lose. There's no loss. We read in the 6th chapter, you know, if one practices for a short time, the next life you can take birth in a pious or rich family. If you practice for a long time, you can take birth in a family of devotees, not ordinary birth. So it behooves us just to keep on going, even though it may not be perfect, even we may struggle. We just keep going. Just stay alive in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is saying, you know, chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regular principles. And you know, you'll go back to Godhead. I guarantee it, I guarantee it, I guarantee it. There's so much power is there in the word of the pure devotee and within devotional service, under the shelter of the pure devotee. We see here, Prabhupada in his own example says, I gave up this worship, but only until I met His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada. Only when then I resume my worship of Radha Govinda. He gives all the credit to his spiritual master. Even though he was always a pure devotee, he never forgot Krishna. So there's always hope. And by serving Krishna in this way, we can do so much. And we get impressions as we go on in this, even though we may not have it in childhood. We make impressions when we first come to Krishna consciousness. It's kind of like Lord Chaitanya gives us like this big taste of ecstasy. When we first come, it's like everything's amazing, you know. Wow, the devotees, I mean, wow, what's this prashada? Wow, this is beautiful. That kirtan was rocking. I've never been in a party like that before. Everything's amazing. Yeah. So it's like you're born again, a born again Krishna. You come through, and everything is just amazing. The philosophy, what is this philosophy? You start reading books. I had all these questions, whole life I've been asking, now they're answered, you know? And it's just like, you're not the body, you're spirit soul. Wow, you know? Now we hear, if I say it, you know, everyone's falling asleep, but you're not the body, you're spirit soul. Yeah, I know. But when we first said it, it's like, that's right, yeah, you're just changing bodies. You had so many bodies before. Don't you know you're eternal? You go beyond death. This body's just a bag of blood, pus, urine and stool. Now it's common use, now it's normal. Isn't it? What to hear when we hear about Krishna and how amazing he is. Lifting Govardhan Hill. Wow. Everyone was on there? Yeah. Thunderbolt, yeah. 7 days, 7 nights, yeah. Wow. And then like your mind starts going crazy because it's like, how did he pick it up? Like, does he have to... How to put it back? Without killing anyone, without squashing anyone, or without being squashed himself. You know, it's not like it's a... Because like, if you were to like, sort of come off on the end, one side will go down, right? I don't know if you carried anything before, you kind of have to... So you start spinning your mind. How does he do it? It's amazing. Krishna's amazing. I remember when I first came to the temple, and my parents brought me, and I read quite a bit, so I was kind of ready. And it was in Melbourne, Australia, and I came in, and they had like 3 altars. And I didn't know, you know, which side. You know, I've been to a Hindu temple, you can see the God already. But I didn't know, it was like, it was cut, the altar was covered. And then you hear this conch shell, and they open, and this Gorintai, I didn't even know who they were. You know, for Hindus it's a new God, like Chaitanya. You know, and but the thing that caught me the most was that there was a Mataji on the altar. You don't see that in Hindu temples, and not in India. She was like Chinese. It's like, wow, you know? She was actually Bangladesh, but it's like, wow, you know. And then she offers aarti, and I never seen someone offer aarti like this. Like here, when they do the lamp, they sort of dip it down an angle, and they don't fall off, nothing falls off, and they're like, oh, it's like, that's far, like, for me that was an impression, I still remember it now. It's like, you know, it's not just some ritual now, it's like, I'm doing this with some feeling here. And then, all these, like, Australian devotees walking, you know, with the white skin, they're not Indian, they're in dhoti and everything. And I was so depressed at that moment. I had a bad experience and was depressed and thinking, this is not going to go away at all. It's not going to happen. And they started the kirtan. And usually, you used to, in Hindu temples, they don't really sing, they just bang these drums and play this like Shanai. There's a lot of noise, you know, and gongs and everything. And they're kind of just guys just sitting down and like no expression, just playing, you know. Maybe more on the professional side. But then I saw these Australians and they're standing up and they're playing, and once they started chanting, whatever sadness was in my heart just went away. I was like, how'd they do that? And then they started going up and down and dancing. And my dad was a devotee before. He, like maybe 6 years before I got into it. And me and my brother, our relationship with our dad was like, he was just this serious guy who never smiled. Like, he was dad, serious guy, never smiled, always told you off, or was always quiet. And never had fun, kind of thing. I see my dad, he's dancing with these guys, hands in the air, smiling, up and down. I'm standing next to my mom, I didn't join him. Standing next to my mom, I'm like, who is this person? I've never seen him smile so much before, let alone dance. My dad is dancing, I tell you, this is crazy, What did they do to you? With these young boys, and they're going up and down. You don't dance in a temple, it's like, it's God. You have to be serious and pray, and don't smart, don't laugh, serious. So this whole like, so much feeling, so much like festivity, and experience and this happened within 20 minutes, of just entering the temple. It's a big deal for me. So, we can see, even though we come late, we don't get a childhood, we can get an experience which makes us remember in such a way that softens the heart, it frees us from any stress and anxiety. And even when you're practicing for so many years, I'm like remembering it now, I'm like, oh yeah, I think I'll stay another day, it was so nice, and this process is so nice, and meeting devotees is so nice. More happened after that, tasting prasad and hearing a class, and then the Gaurahati Kirtan. That's when the brahmacharis pulled me in, because like that beat was going, and it was rocking, and then these guys are really dancing, and then they pull you in, and that's it, it's over after that. And, mom saying, we gotta go, I go, no, I wanna stay! And that kirtan just kept going. Yeah. So I never experienced something like that. Lord Chaitanya is very expert. I found a scripture reference about that, that is it true that Lord Chaitanya gives you like a taster before, and so you can hold on to it later. And I'll try and find it and I'll show one of you guys. But yeah, Brihad Bhagavatam, some Kirtan Chaitanya, you get some taster there. So this is the power of Krishna consciousness. Maya will try and slow us down, make you feel like you're moving too slow, you're not progressing, make you feel despondent in some way. But that's her job. So I feel a good way to counteract that is to remember those times of ecstasy that we've had. Those maybe a Rath Yatra, or something your spiritual master said to you, or some experience with some devotees, or a particular prasadam on a festival day, that just changed them. One more, I'll share one more personal impression that was made. This was way before I was a devotee. I had an identity crisis. I didn't know whether I was Indian or Australian. I couldn't hang out with the Indians, I couldn't hang out with the Australians, so didn't fit in. Who am I really? So my parents were born in Malaysia, so I was thinking, it's a Malaysian Indian thing, maybe it's that. So I'll go and try and find myself, hang out with my relatives, and they were religious, they'll go to temples and stuff. I was like a spiritual quest. And there's a big festival of Kartikeya, they call Taipusam. And this is like the festival where they put hooks in their backs and metal rods through their tongues and cheeks and everything like that. And I went with my cousin, and we got there. First thing I noticed was that the guys are chasing the girls, and the girls are chasing the guys. I'm like, what's going on? This is like a religious place. They go, where else are they going to meet? My cousin was telling me, where else are they going to meet? I go, alright. And at that time I had like big dreadlocks, and I was thinking, like, there's a thing where you do for this festival, you can carry this big like wooden structure and they play drums, and you dance in a trance, and they put all these hooks and metal rods. I was like, yeah, and like you sacrifice your hair to the god, and you know, I was like, yeah, I'll do that. Chop my dreads and do that one, you know. So this temple of Kartikeya, it's actually inside a cave, and you have to walk up so many steps to go inside. So there was many people who were devoted to this demigod, and you know, part of it was they carry this thing called a kawadi, and they play drum in the trance, they go up. So I'm watching, like, there's people who assist the person who's carrying the structure and everything, and he's getting ready to go up the stairs, and I'm watching, you know, I go, okay, let's see how it's done. And they're giving him chulams, they're giving him ganja, and I was so disappointed. I was like, oh man, come on, this is fake too. Yeah, this is fake, you know. First was the girls and the guys, now this, and then they had like some amusement park there with the Ferris. Like, oh, all this commercialism, people selling stuff. I was like, oh, I'm useless, you know. I was so disappointed, you know. And at that time I was studying design, so I was into arts and stuff. So there was this tent, and they were selling posters. I was like, yeah, let me grab some posters and for some art inspiration. So I'm looking for different posters, and I see there's like one with like 5 boys on it. I was like, no. And I saw another one, it was like Radha and Krishna. Very beautiful one. This one done by Jadharani. You see like, there's like parrots and like people, like manjaris, faces of manjaris in the back. And she's like very shy. And Krishna's offering something. Very nice, very beautiful. I was like, wow, such a beautiful poster, let me buy it. And it's a Hare Krishna tent, of course. And the one with the 5 boys was actually the Panchatattva. I saw 5. I remember thinking, oh, there's 5 boys, okay. And the guy comes and he goes, Hare Krishna. And I go, oh yeah, my dad's a Hare Krishna. Oh really, that's nice. So I bought the posters, and he gives me this bag of nuts and raisins and stuff. And it must have been Mahaprasad. Oh, okay, thank you, you know. So I had the nuts, and there was a discussion, my cousin on the way back, would go, yeah, you know, my dad's into Hare Krishna. It's like, yeah, I like Lakshmi, and it was kind of thing, you know. I was like, alright, cool. After eating that Mahaprasad, like, my cousins also, they're materialistic, so then, you know, when drinking, and then when I had the first drink of alcohol, it just had this switch that just made you like completely sad, full depression. I was like, huh, that's not right. That wasn't supposed to happen. And I kept trying again, and it was like, okay, maybe it's like just the Malaysian alcohol's not working. So I went back, and I was working at a bar at the time. And I tried the Australian version, same thing happened. I was like, oh, this doesn't work. So then I just gave it up completely, you know. Vishyavini vatantenya hasyadena rasarajam rasopiyasya padam disaragatate. I got the high taste from just Mahaprasad. I knew it was Mahaprasad. Not then, now I do, but it's like, how could I, and I worked in the bar for another year without drinking. How's that possible? It's not possible. Only by God's grace it's possible. And then, you know, you could see what would follow after that. But I mean, we can see it when we practice devotional service. We see how Krishna is in our life now protecting us, just like Parikshit Maharaj kept examining, looking for Krishna after being protected. We see in our practice we're being uplifted and protected. But even we can see from before we were devotee, how Krishna got involved. Setting up that time when you completely surrender. I tell you, I never wanted to be devotee. I was set up. It was a setup. I got fixed, you know. But we can see that even from before we were devotee, how Krishna just jumps in. Some impression. So, the conclusion, or the moral of the story, is that if we're feeling that we're not progressing, or that we're in a sort of dark place, then remember how Krishna saved you. Remember how Krishna enchanted you. And remember Krishna, how Krishna just comforted you. This will get you through it. Just like Maharaj Parikshit is doing, just like Prabhupada did throughout his endeavors, serving his spiritual master. And just like Prahlad Maharaj was fearless, just for remembering his relationship with the Lord. So I'll stop here after any comments, questions. Maybe you can share your impressions that are in your heart of Krishna. Vayapuru.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, you spoke about here in purport. Prabhupada says that he apparently got lots of credit as a kid. Was brought up in a family of pure devotee, and I'm just thinking what about those that don't have any pious samskaras in their life? I don't remember so many in my life, so I cannot believe that I ended up here. So I'm just thinking, many people join, they just don't have any pious background or religious or any memories of deities or even church or any. So is that, I just want to give you impetus to say maybe a few words about power of Harinam, because there's practically only hope to people to hear holy name vibrating. So what would you say?
Yeah, definitely. The impression of our preaching is very powerful. The holy name, it goes past all the sensual barrier, the mental, the intellectual, straight to the consciousness, to the soul. So once it goes in, then the magic is started already. Namahi Yavati Shakti Papa Niharne Hare Kataputam Nishapnoti Patakam Pataki Naraha. That just by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, one can be purified from more sins he can commit in a lifetime. So if people go past, they hear the name, let alone chant Krishna Hare Hare Hare, then it's kind of, they're on their path already. And the more they get it, the more they come closer, the more the purification takes place. It says even after the Harinam party goes through the street, people who walk on that street, they also get purified. That's also there. And also Prabhupada said, I've created your good fortune. Even if you haven't done anything pious before. I've created your good fortune. So the books is very powerful. Even just seeing a book distributor is powerful, believe it or not. I remember when I was in university, so I'd go through the city, the university was in the city, and then outside the train station there'll be a devotee distributing books. I didn't know he was a devotee, I didn't know he was Hare Krishna, I just saw a guy handing out these giant books. He wasn't dressed in dhoti. And I remember seeing that someone took the book and just kept walking and the guy chased after him. And in my mind I was thinking, how could you think this big book was for free? That was the thought inside. This book distributor didn't do it on purpose to catch me or anything. I just saw, from a distance, this guy's giving out books, some person took it, kept walking, and he's chasing it. I felt sorry for the guy, and I just thought, how could you think that book was for free? So there's always little somethings every now and then, There's always something. What to speak of, people who are fans of the Beatles, they hear the holy name. They like my spiritual master. He tells that this funny story. He had a girlfriend who had a dog named Krishna. So the dog would always run away. So he had to go and chase it down. So he would be running around the block going, Krishna, Krishna. fire, like this. So he said, in this way, I did Harinam Sankirtan around the block, you know. So there's always some sneaky way Krishna will get involved. Even in a movie or whatever, people watch a movie, there's some Krishna element in there. People have Indian friends at work named Govinda or Radha or something like this. Even this Nama bus, you know, there's like a hotel, Ramada, and there's like, I saw a bus that had Scandal Rama on it. Rama's everywhere. So Krishna is always doing something, and obviously we're helping out. Especially with the books, they touch the book, they read one line, it goes in, even if they disagree. That means it hits somewhere, and it'll do something to their consciousness. So we should never stop book teaching. Prasadam also, we should never stop. All these things, just somehow just being nice. Oh, that was a nice person. Well, they praise the devotee. Open the door. Oh, thank you. Saying good morning, Prabhupada would do that too. You know, the morning walk, and people are also in the park walking, and he didn't say Hare Krishna. Sometimes he would, but you know, so you say good morning, and they say good morning back. And Prabhupada, you didn't say Hare Krishna. Well, they wish me good morning. They get benefit. So actually, we're being connected to Prabhupada, we're like beacons of mercy, creating impressions, slowly, more and more. The Sankirtan movement is very sneaky. My spiritual master says, just like in a building, if there's a crack, and somehow a little water gets in there, I think we experienced it upstairs. And if there's a crack in the building, then the water leaks in, slowly it gets in. It can break down the whole building. So the Sankirtan movement is working like that in the kingdom of Maya. We just put our drops of water out there, and eventually it'll break down, start crumbling. We're trying to break down this materialistic civilization through the Bhagavatam, which creates a revolution in the consciousness of the impious lives of a misdirected civilization. That's what they're the ways the impressions get out there for the impious souls. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to share this one story of Lisa.
Can you take a mic before you start? Sorry.
While we're speaking about impressions, I just wanted to share this. I don't know if everyone knows the story of Lisa. Lisa is in Studio 108, one of the team members now. But actually before she came to Studio 108, she was working close by in an office in one of those buildings where we always did Harinams. And she told me one time that it happened that she heard the Harinam every day. And she felt very attracted to the holy names. That kept going for years. And then she actually met devotees and ended up being in Studio 108. Everyone.
Yeah.
Say Harinam works. Thank you. Yeah, Abdul, you want to?
Any question?
A question? Microphone.
You were mentioning about Ajamil, and I was, Paka Brahmana, did everything perfectly. Then he saw one, scene of degraded activities, and so he lost everything in his emotional life. So what chance do we have?
We have no chance. But under the shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's cutting down the arrows of Cupid. As long as we stay under his shelter. So it's very difficult in this age. That kind of seen as normal now. In the form of billboards, the people themselves, how they dress. Just their consciousness is just emanating sex desire. So, yeah, we're right in the thick of it. But when we take up the mission of Lord Chaitanya, distributing the mercy, then this is our protection. Aham manastumam prata devim prakriti mashita vijanti yana manaso ganta bhuta dimaviyam. That the Mahatmas, the great souls, they take shelter under the divine energy, understanding that the Lord is everlasting and inexhaustible. They're just worshipping constantly. How do they do that worship? Satatam kirti yantam vidanta tata nama santastamam bhakta nityukta pasate. That always chanting my glories and endeavoring great determination. These devotees who they worship me, being always connected this way. So it's by spreading the glories that we get that protection from Lord Chaitanya. And that protection comes in the form of great happiness. Actually, this is what the higher taste. My spiritual master says when you first come to Krishna consciousness, you get a nectar cup, small one, it's like a thimble, and you get it for catching nectar, and then you drink it. Catch it, drink it. So then, when you use your nectar cup to catch nectar, but you give to others, then your cup grows. So then you can catch more nectar. Drink some, catch it, give it away, it grows. Catch some, give it, grows, take some. So they're kind of combined. It's kind of together. Like we have to, compassion can only come when you have something better than they do. And we do. Like, can you imagine not chanting japa for one day? How can you go about your life? It's crazy. Go out there without chanting any rounds. It's like, you're crazy. Imagine a life without kirtan. No more. You have to listen to these boring 3-minute songs. Our songs last for at least 20 minutes, It's like normal. Okay, I'm going to play a song. It's 20 minutes. If it's Radha Deshmala's, it's an hour or longer. Does this song end? Yeah, 45 minutes. How can you imagine a life without kirtan? They don't have that. A life without prasadam. No more prasadam. Imagine, we're not going to give you prasadam anymore. Bhoga only. They have to eat that. Toast. Toast and baked beans. We get khichdi, we get all this maha. And it's far out. What about the books, the philosophy? We got Prabhupada's books. What do they have? They don't really have Facebook, all this gossip, the same stuff again, and just boring. There's a saying that no news means good news. So that means all their news is bad. So this is the good news, Bhagavatam. We get to hear and talk philosophy. Devotee association. They don't have that. It's boring. I don't know if sometimes you have to go and hang out with their families who are not devotees, or maybe you see some old friends from school. And what do they talk about? Work and the weather. That's it. Yeah, busy working, and the weather, and maybe I hate this politician. That's it. It doesn't go beyond that. The devotees, they talk about all these far out different subjects, how they change the world, and Krishna, how beautiful he is, how merciful he is. And we have deities, we can see them all the time. And we get to serve them. They don't have anything like that. So in that way, you at least feel some compassion. So that's our protection. And that we just relish Krishna consciousness. Just relish it more and more. If you like lots of prasadam, go for it, No harm. If you like kirtan, do more kirtan. You like reading the Bhagavatam, read more. You like cooking for Krishna, cook more. You like to meet people, tell them about Krishna, doing book distribution, go for it. You like to bang a drum and sing the holy name? 10 hours? Yeah, we're going to do it. This is our protection. This is how we stay under the shelter of the Devi Prakriti, which is actually Srimati Radharani. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Cantor Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Yeah.
Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.
This item, Prabhu ki.